Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Yesterday and today, having lots of trouble with my voice. I saw on TV just the other day that they were saying that the pollen count from mountain cedars is at an all-time high right now. Well, old joy, old thrill, old good news. Mountain cedars are the number one thing that I'm allergic to. My allergies have just been going off. So anyway, good to have you back. Appreciate you being with me. We're looking at the language of Matthew chapter 24, 29 and following, in which Jesus said immediately after the tribulation of those days, the tribulation associated with the abomination of desolation that Jesus said would be set up in Judea. His apostles would see it. When it was set up, the inhabitants of Jerusalem and Judea were to flee. Look, folks, the abomination of desolation not supposed to be set up in New York City or Iraq or Iran. Has nothing to do with them. It was all about being set up in Judea, Jerusalem, and his apostles would see it. Now that eliminates the abomination of desolation and the great tribulation from our future. But anyway, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars of heaven shall be shaken. I've been sharing with you several passages in which this decreation language is used in the Old Testament, demonstrating that the language was never, ever intended to be taken literally. In other words, here we are with Jesus, with his apostles, all of whom are absolutely saturated with Hebraic thought from the Old Testament. They know these Old Testament passages front, back, sideways, up and down. It is their vernacular. And so the question is, what right do we have to impose literalism on these passages, on this language that historically had, without exception, been used metaphorically? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 34. I shared with you Isaiah 30 and 31 yesterday, and I told you it's one of my very favorite passages. Well, this is the next one on the list. And there are others. Isaiah 34 is just an incredible example of language demonstrating the metaphoric nature of that language. Isaiah chapter 34. I'm going to start with verse 2. The indignation of the Lord is against all nations, and his fury against all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. He has given them over to the slaughter. Also, their slain shall be thrown out. Their stench shall rise from their corpses. Oh boy, here we go. Graphic stuff. The mountains shall be melted with their blood. All the host, all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll. All their host shall fall down as the leaf falls from the vine and as fruit falling from a fig tree. Now, first of all, as I've shared with you on an earlier occasion, I want you to notice the prophetic past tense. He says all of the nations have been destroyed. Well, no, this is a prediction of what's going to happen, but this is being used in a proleptic sense. It's spoken of as past when it's yet future. Prophetic, past tense. It's a well-known journalistic practice. It's well-known in prophecy. Isaiah 53 is a classic example of this, in which, obviously speaking of Jesus, he has borne our griefs and our sorrows. With his stripes, we are healed. Well, there's a present tense, but he hadn't even come yet. He wouldn't come for hundreds of years. And so we have to understand the nature of the language, of how Hebraic thought expresses future realities as present realities or even as past realities. Now then, watch this. They're slain, the slain of the nations. We'll get to that in another video. Their slain shall be thrown out. Their stench shall rise from their corpses. The mountains shall be melted with blood. Folks, can you imagine that? I was sitting in an audience in Florida some years ago in which a dispensational preacher was preaching. And he was talking about Revelation chapter 14. How in this great battle, and he described it in graphic, gory detail, the blood of the enemies of Christ would be up to the bridles of horses, because Jesus Christ will stamp out the wicked like wine or like grapes in the winepress. And he was taking it absolutely literally. And then he said this. I was sitting by my friend John Anderson at the time, and when this guy said this, John and I just turned to one another, looked at one another, and just shook our head in amazement. This dispensational speaker said, in describing the blood, the gore, the good thing about that, he said, is I get to watch. Lord, forgive us when men would exult in such violence, blood, guts, and gore. He was thrilled at that prospect. But the key problem is here, he's taking the language literally. Now, would blood ever dissolve the mountains? Well, I can tell you, you can pour as much blood on the Rocky Mountains and the granite there as you want, and it will not dissolve them. Folks, it's literally ridiculous. It doesn't even make good nonsense to take this language literally. But then not only would the mountains be melted with blood, according to literalistic application of this, all the host of heaven shall be dissolved. Mountains melted and dissolved, host of heaven. Folks, that's the sun, the moon, the stars. Really? There's going to be enough blood shed on the earth to dissolve the sun, the moon, the stars? Oh, wait a minute. How can the sun, being dark, and the moon be turned to blood, literally, if it's going to be dissolved? How could you dissolve the stars of heaven with blood shed on the earth, since stars are light years away from earth? It doesn't work. Now, here's something important to realize. Notice two different ways in which the earth is being described, or creation is being described as being destroyed. Which one is true? All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll. Oh, wait a minute. If it's dissolved, how do you roll it up like a scroll? You don't. How many different ways is he describing the destruction of creation here? That's two different ways. And once again, a rigid literalism destroys it. Here's what you need to know. Revelation chapter 6, in describing the great day of God's wrath, quotes this text verbatim. Not because it's the same event, but because Isaiah predicted an event in this kind of language, and because John is predicting another event in using the same kind of language. Isaiah 34 is predicting the destruction of a given nation, which we will examine in our next video. Revelation is describing the destruction of a given nation, as we shall see. So it's two different events to occur at two different times, but using the identical language. Oh, by the way, 2 Peter 3 utilizes this language as well. So if Revelation 6 uses this language, 2 Peter 3 uses this language, but this language in Isaiah chapter 34 simply cannot be taken and interpreted literally. Once again, what is our hermeneutic for saying, well, yes, it was metaphoric in Isaiah 34, but John's using it literally. Peter's using it literally. Where is the proof? And the answer to that question is there is none. Hey, look, don't forget, the rest of this month, January 2020, U.S. orders only, my book, The Elements Shall Melt with Fervent Heat. Sound familiar with Isaiah chapter 34? Yep, sounds familiar. Like Father, like Son on clouds of glory, and have heaven and earth passed away. Well, that's what it sounded like in Isaiah 34, right? Now, if you ordered all three of these books separately and independently, it would cost you over $60. But for January 2020, U.S. orders only. If you're out of the country, contact me about PDF orders at a greatly reduced price even. But if you ordered all three of these independently, separately, it would cost you almost $61. For this month, U.S. orders only, total delivered price $40 to your door. Nothing extra, nothing added, $40. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. There's a banner right up at the very top advertising the special. All you can do is click on it and pay, and you'll save over $20 on three excellent books. Hey, thanks for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. Don't forget, we've got more on Isaiah 34 on the flip side. So I'll see you there.